Hi, my name is Sam Led, and welcome to The Fearless Now. This is for you in the nosebleed seats, if you're looking for an easier way to approach anxiety, stress, and unhealthy habits from the inside out. There's no techniques and no strategies, so sit back, relax, and let me be your peace of mind Uber driver, here on The Fearless Now. Hey everybody, my name is Sam Led, as you know, that's why you're listening, and this is The Fearless Now podcast. And this is episode 41. I cannot believe I've done 41 episodes, Thomas. And Thomas is my special guest today. He's a very special young man, a man of multiple talents. I mean, you got a lot of talent, man. Thomas Henley, all the way from across the country and then across the pond in the UK. You're like 6,000 miles away. Thomas Henley is a podcaster. He's a martial arts expert. He has a YouTube channel. What can't you do, my friend? And he has a podcast that really is brilliant. And it's heartfelt. And he shares his journey with Asperger's and spectrum. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I have Thomas Henley on here. And I've just been talking to him before for like 15 minutes. And we could have talked for 6 hours and not hit the record button. Thomas, kind of, what say you, my friend? I was introduced to you. I don't know how we connected on Instagram, and one of the blessings of social media is the fact that I can meet gifted and lovely human beings out there in the world, and you're one of them, my friend.
You're making me blush. We've only just started, and I can feel the blood flowing into my
good.
cheeks.
It's good to get the blood flowing. And Thomas, I don't see you. I see you going places, more places than you've already gone. And Thomas is also a public speaker, and he shares his journey with being on the spectrum. And I don't even think he's a spectrum of love and light more than the spectrum of anything else. And him and I are in the same club. You know, being having a neurodiverse kind of.
The neurodiversity squad.
Remember the same union. We're gonna make T-shirts and have a membership. It's a gift having a neurodiverse brain. You know, and I saw something the other day, Thomas, on was a quote on Instagram that it basically some of our brains fire differently than others, and those brains are society is not prepared for. Like our brain just fires differently, and there are millions and millions of other people that have brains that fire differently and the same. And
the society is for the most part built up for the norm, for how most people experience the world. So for people who would fall under that lovely little neurodiverse category, it's quite hard for them to adapt and to live in this world. Even just the physical environments, just the way that people do things, the normative values in
whatever normative interaction, right?
Normative, exactly.
Normative is means absolutely nothing and everything. I mean, it's all through our perceptual lens. Indeed. that we see the world, and that perceptual lens is all made up in real time by our brilliant computer that loves us, wants to keep us safe, but you know, it has its own quirks and features. And being part of the neurodiverse club and seeing that the gifts of having a neurodiverse brain. In a society that really has not evolved that much socially. Mm-hmm. We've made some progress, thankfully. We have a long way to go. And with that, the audience would love to hear about your journey, take us to the present moment. And also, you and I talked before about, what it was like being a kid in the UK, little kid growing up with this very brilliant neurodiverse brain that people, doctors, educators still don't really understand because they're overcomplicating it because they have their conditioning, how things are supposed to work. Sit still in class, keep quiet, ask for permission to go to the bathroom, right? So, don't be a kid. And also like what tools you've used to help be more social. And you and I talked about that podcasting has been a wonderful kind of outlet, as well as your gift of being an expert in the martial arts and really harnessing that skill set to see more of Thomas as this brilliant neurodiverse human being. That's a lot, I know.
Sure. I know it's a fair bit. It's like, I think even my story up to the present moment is quite hard to condense, but
well, do your best, do your best or not do your best, do whatever comes to mind. But I think, sure. This is your episode. And I think that let's start from what got you here to this moment, because you've experienced a lot, you've seen a lot through a neurodiverse lens, but also through a very human lens that you've had glimpses of your essential nature of who you are, and a lot of people have too. Society, on the other hand, they need to catch up. So I'm gonna give the microphone, proverbial microphone, over to you, the conch over to you.
Thank you. Well, I was diagnosed with what was then called Asperger's syndrome. I think in America it's more Asperger's. Like
how do you say it? How do you say it?
Asperger's.
That sounds so much cooler than Asperger's. Us Americans. Yeah.
Asperger's and fries.
Right. Well, that sounds very, very, very more more sophisticated. I can't even say it. Go ahead.
Yes. So I was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 10. Mm-hmm. And prior to this, for pretty much most of my life, my parents and myself were not aware of any differences that I had with other people. I did have some physical presentation of autism when I was younger. I used to spin around constantly on the spot when I was watching TV, or at any point, really. That's what we kind of call stimming in the autistic community, kind of like the emotional regulation part of autism. And so I didn't really know much about it. And the differences that I had socially compared to other kids around that age, around that sort of primary school age, was almost unrecognizable for me. It was only until I got into secondary school, around about the age of 13, 14, that I really started to see, okay, everyone's a lot different to me. I really struggle to understand what's going on in my environments with people and relationships and friends, and so over time, being exposed to that secondary school environment, that very sensory provoking, loud, chaotic environment with some nice people and quite a lot of mean spirited kids who, see that vulnerability in you. And over the course of my first few years, I started to develop a lot of mental health difficulties. I started to miss school. I actually thought that I was sick most of the time because my stomach was always turning and it was always giving me headaches and making me feel ill. But really what was happening was I was just being exposed to this very high level of anxiety each day at school. And over time, from what we know about like neuroscience and psychology, chronic pain or chronic anxiety leads to depression. And it was very much the case that I started to isolate myself. I started to turn from a really bubbly, friendly kid into a very shy, introverted, insecure teenager. And although that may seem like something that's common, it was a very stark contrast in the two personalities. Throughout my time at school, I was bullied. I remember one particular day that really stands out to me. I got on a bus to go to school in the morning, and there was this little kid who was about 2 or 3 years younger than me, but he would now and again on the bus start harassing me, like spitting in a plastic bag and putting it over my head. And at that time, I didn't really know how to handle that, because obviously my physicality, I'm much bigger, I'm much stronger, but I didn't know how to deal with that without, doing the wrong thing. And I got to school. It was my first lesson. I was lining up for my first lesson. A bunch of a group of the jocks, as you would say, were all being all rowdy and stuff in the corridor. And one of them came up to me and they started, trying to confront me. Then they punched me in the balls, quite hard. Thinking that the best way to deal with that was to not react. I didn't react, and so they did it again, and I didn't react. I didn't say anything, and so they called all of their friends over, and everyone started crowding around me and punching and kicking me in the man area, and like that didn't even, that was kind of the only start to that day, because there was another 2 people who were harassing me and my friends at lunchtime. A very, very big guy for his age would come and grab our football and kick it over the fence and go around with a rubber band and flick our ears and push us and so even that sort of more physical side of bullying wasn't as bad as the emotional side. I really struggled to understand the social situations. I looking back on it, it was quite obvious that people were taking advantage of my trusting nature. And so I received a lot of emotional, social-based bullying for quite a large part of secondary school.
Let me stop you there for a quick, and I just wanted to say that your resilience. I can feel I can see the resilience, in you, and the courage of growing up like myself in a world where it's like they don't speak the same language as we do, innocently.
Mm-hmm.
And from a very early age, you just saw outside stimuli differently. Your languaging is differently. And that must have been extraordinarily confusing and overwhelming. And I can relate to that. Having ADHD, we, just like you, we take in all the stimuli all at once. I call it technicolor. Whereas it's like the brain's taking in everything at once. So the noise is really loud. Like, for example, when you were talking, we're going to get back to your story, but I think this, I can really identify with a lot of what, even though it's different being on the spectrum, but the way we take in auditory information is similar. Whereas when you were talking, there was an ambulance outside going by, and that was so loud that I really had to struggle to listen to you, not because I wasn't interested, but because everything is coming in through the auditory channel all at once. It's like there's no discernment when you look at it from in terms of volume. It all comes in at once, and instead of our brain kind of discerning between the ambulance in the background or whatever noise is going on, or talking, or whatever it is, it's like a YouTube. I don't know if you've opened 10 YouTube channels on the top of your computer, and then you hit play, and they're all playing at the same time. And then you're like in a social environment, school, and you're a little kid, and you're a teenager, and that's confusing as hell to begin with. And your hormones, and you're trying to study, and you have the kids around you. I mean, it's chaotic. So I'm not surprised. And for you to be feeling misunderstood and not, it's like speaking a foreign language, going to another country, and they are not understanding a word of what you're saying. And everyone around you, including your teachers, don't understand. They're trying to understand. They think they understand. And then they're following a set of rules that have been around for forever, right?
There were a couple of teachers who are quite... There's been a couple of people dotted around in my life that were real sources of support for me. And they didn't tend to be the people who were like the TAs who came in to give me specialist support. It was just particular teachers around school, or for example, at university, a support officer, just one particular support officer that would just help.
He saw you.
Much.
He saw you. He saw your true nature, and he was able to see beyond his noise, and and just see you as Thomas, the loving, the good person that you are, the gifted person that you are, with so much potential. And we all can do that once we look beyond the noise of our own thinking.
Definitely.
But being a kid growing up with this different type of brain that's not broken, there's nothing wrong with you. Your brain just works differently. And there are hundreds of millions of
operating system.
You're working on like
PS4,
iOS,
Xbox.
right? PS4, Xbox. You're talking, right? I have an Android system, and you have iOS, and someone has MS DOS. I don't know, and that Windows XP. I feel bad for those Windows XP people. Old system, but it's so true, my friend, that once we see that, and then getting the whole entire planet on board, I think that's the growing edge there. That's the journey there. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to say that.
No, of course.
So we're at like high school now, and you, you're being bullied, and it's horrible. And there are some teachers, like I experienced too in my education, that really saw Sam and really supported me. And I'll never forget. I know their names still to this day, and this is 30 years ago. They were like my angels, my guardian angels. And I think that's why today I'm who I am. Well, I know who I am, versus if I believed all the noise, it wouldn't, the Sam that you see now, the real Sam, just like the real Thomas, it would have been hard for people to see, because I would have been lost in the noise in my head. So go on. I apologize for the segue. Yeah,
it's okay. So yeah, at that point at school, probably about the age of 14, things were just getting too much for me, and I went to a therapist once a week to talk about my low mood. Basically, what happened was I used to be quite a competitive swimmer when I was younger. But as my mental health conditions started to develop in those teenage years, I started to self-harm. I started to develop eating disorders, bulimia, and I started to get heavy levels of dissociation. We call it, there's like two different types: depersonalization and derealization. Depersonalization means you're not identifying with you.
So the thinking took on a life of its own, and I think that's what happens. Depression is we create. We start believing our thinking so much, right? We start really focused too much on our anxiety, our low mood, so much so we actually recreate neural patterns, which become habitual thought, which literally change our brain's neural networks. And then by that time, and that's one example of it, one side effect. Yeah.
All of these things that are developed out of the anxiety and the depression were in ways the brain's coping mechanism to, pull me out of my reality, to make me, distant from what was happening. And that was something that has carried, those mental health conditions carried on for a while, a very long time. It was when I started self-harming that I went to see a psychotherapist. And it was also around that time that I decided, after getting very into the Japanese animes.
How did you get into were you?
I loved Japan when I was young. I still do, but I had a fascination with Japanese culture because
it's brilliant.
I even did an exchange program, and it was very, very odd because it was the first time that I'd ever been a popular person in a group. And these Japanese people, they just got me. I understood the way that they were. They understood me. It was just,
they're an incredible culture. I love Japan. I love their culture. It works. They honor each other. There's as there's the center point of their culture is all about honor.
Yeah.
And how important that is, respect and honor. And I wish that would have bled into, especially our culture here, but understanding, because of that fact, for folks like you and I, in many respects, it can be a kinder place in some respects.
I just found it so strange that this foreign culture was so much more in line with myself, and the culture that I'd grown up with. The way that social interaction is carried out and the things that people say, it was just so different to that experience.
There's an eloquence to the culture there for sure.
Yeah.
Respect.
Well, it was the Japanese anime that really got me into combat sports. I decided to go through a few ones. I went to MMA, I went to karate.
Oh, wow.
I tried jiu-jitsu. I tried Aikido. But the main thing that really stuck out to me was Taekwondo, which, it was perfect, almost like a perfect sport for me because it was a combat sport. There was a lot of techniques to learn. My balance is really bad. I have quite a hypersensitivity to balance. So it taught me how to be more in control of my body. And it also allowed me to channel some of the aggression and some of the stress that I had, to sort of like a cathartic thing to do. And over time, developing this Taekwondo, I started in a very traditional club for about a couple of years.
How old were you when you started the Taekwondo? Were you still like a teenager, still 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Around 14, 15. And it was really good for me. And it always has been a really great environment, because the meaning of going to this place is not to socialize, it's to train. And it's to get all those good, relaxing hormones and neurotransmitters going in your brain, making you very relaxed and sociable. And then if you want to, there are some people around you that you can talk to. And that was quite important for me. I started competing. I got better and better. I moved to a sports-based club, which very different to the traditional side of it. I made my way through the ranks. I fought at the national championships a few times, got silver and bronze, and steadily worked myself up. And then obviously I then started to go to different countries.
Wow.
Particularly Germany and Holland, or the Netherlands, as you would say. And just places like Serbia and Croatia and places that are quite close to the UK to fight and to get experience in the international stage. And I was invited to go to compete for England at the Commonwealth Championships.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's quite a big thing, especially in the Commonwealth countries. And I never expected to win at all. I had to fight a very absolutely gigantic Australian dude who had moved down from the heavyweights because there was nobody who was heavy and big enough for him to fight. So he moved down into the lower category, which was the light heavyweights, minus 80 kilos. And it was a very Rocky type moment. You know, the crowd was going. It was the closest fight in the entire day. And it literally came down to a hair, came down to a judge's decision. I cannot explain the feeling of being there and just giving up my all and trying to combat the tiredness and just keeping going and trucking forward. And I won it, surprisingly to me. And I even went on to get an award for the best male fighter.
Wow.
Which I actually have the trophy here if you want to see it.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, he's showing his. Oh, cool, dude. That's cool. Oh, wow. It's like a work of art there. Oh, it does. Totally cool. Oh, wow.
From the
ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of like, how would you describe it? There's a koala on top, and then it's like a cylinder, gorgeous cylinder with purple inside of it.
My dad's
Congratulations.
My dad's a real character. He's such a funny man, my dad. And he one time I came back after having the trophy at his, and he filled it with apples.
Oh, really?
like a fruit bowl.
Your dad sounds like he has a great sense of humor, and I think that's the closest thing to being present. And you know, you got to laugh at our humanisms, our being human, because being human is kind of, most of the time it's really silly and stupid. You know, we all are silly and stupid. If you don't mind me asking, why do you think the martial arts, and more specifically Taekwondo, why it was so much easier for you to socialize within that kind of universe of that specific martial art versus karate versus whatever it is, and what was it specifically about working with coaches and training and competing with other fellow Taekwondo athletes that made it so much more easier for you to be in that universe versus, say, you were doing archery or
in secondary
NASCAR or tennis, right?
Yes.
Or underwater basket weaving. What made it so special for you? And also, why was it like that kind of perfect fit for you versus, because it could have been anything. You could have been a concert pianist and still excel at that.
I think one of the main benefits. Oh no, I won't know. I'll talk about the actual.
Don't mean to put you on the spot or anything.
No, it's fine.
There'll be a quiz at the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, it's Taekwondo. It's a combat sport. It's full contact. It's kind of like the kicking equivalent of boxing, That's the best way to describe it. And I think one of the reasons why I liked it so much was because I'm quite an angry person. Like,
I can tell.
I was an angry person.
You smile more than I've ever smiled in the last couple of days. I'm just, I don't know what it is. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you got to, go check out his podcast or his YouTube, and you smile so much, and you're such a bright light. You're such a bright. I can see the hostility in you, man. You should spend a week in New York City. You want to see hostility in the subway. No, I'm kidding. but it's your true essence is a bright light. So I see that because I'm into it. I picked it up. But dude, you're smiling and kicking someone's ass at the same time. It's got to be. Go ahead.
I mean, around that time, it was more about proving myself, because the beautiful thing about combat sports is that the only thing that you need to be good at is the combat sport. You're fighting against another person in a very injury prone sport, and you don't need to socialize with them. You don't need to say anything.
Just physical and focus.
You don't need to do anything but focus and fight. And for me, that I gave that example of that kid on the bus. I could have easily sorted him out myself at that time, even without my experience in combat sports. But the issue was, what's the socially acceptable way to go about this? What can I not do? What can I do? There's no set rules for
that's the confusion. Yeah, there's the gray right there. Exactly.
And so any place like that, that I feel like I could defend myself, it was always stopped because I don't know how to conduct myself socially.
That's right. This was structured. This was a structured kind of a way to channel that energy for you. It was kind of like it was like a laboratory setting almost. It was where you were taught a whole bunch of what would you call it? Taekwondo,
like techniques,
which is also, and then strategy, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's to the point. And how to defend yourself and how to move around is it a dojo? I'm thinking.
You would call it a dojo, but it's like we fight in like a ring.
A ring, okay.
An octagon kind of shaped ring.
Okay, the octagon.
Nowadays, It used to be a square, but no, it's
so it's kind of like it's you're in this kind of it's literally a structured laboratory
structure.
There's a physical structure. It's like it's to the point, and so that's where you're able to take that in, and then practice it, and then harness all of that, and then use and then get it all out on the octagon. That's a great wave. I love that.
Well,
that makes sense.
The beautiful thing about fighting is that really the self-defense tools that you get from fighting and from competing against other people, it's not the actual skills and the actual strength and the fighting ability that really makes you feel protected. It's that you feel comfortable because you know that you can fight if you want to. And so that comfort really transferred into social situations for me, particularly with bullies, because I thought to myself, I'm strong. I can fight these trained athletes. Why can't I fight this person? And so I was more comfortable and I was more relaxed and was more confident. And so that really came across to people. And one of the things that we talk about with confidence is that people have the wrong idea that you have to be this out there person that intimidates people and you've got to be, dominant and stuff like that. But really, confidence is being unshaken by other people. So if people can't get to you, if they're trying to pick on you, and you stay calm and you assert yourself and say what you want to say and make eye contact, then in those situations, people respect you more, and they don't initiate fighting. And that's been something that's stayed with me my entire life. It's really quite strange, but it has helped me a lot. And I
can imagine.
It's put me through a lot of pain. It's put me through a lot of loss, and it's also proved to me that if I want to get something in life, then I can get it.
I think it was for you, and confirmation that you can do it. You can have a successful life. That you're not the sum total of being bullied, and having these traumatic experiences. Because I'm sure it was traumatic. Because it'd be traumatic for anybody. Bullying is traumatic for anybody, and I can relate to that. Especially when you don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to respond to it.
Yeah. And
I think the container for you, the brilliant container that you were able to see, and we all have glimpses of our well-being, of our confidence, of our inner quiet, of our resilience that you harnessed. That container was in the octagon and by doing Taekwondo and competing.
Yeah.
Although you didn't need to do that to see how special and how capable you are, it was sort of, it facilitated the quiet, even though you had glimpses of quiet and of that calm confidence and that inner resilience that we all see every day. We just don't pay attention to it enough. But for neurodiverse folks like you and I, the noise is so loud.
Anyway, even in a calm school, it's still too much sometimes. So add in all of this crazy social dynamics and mean people. It's
and they're just caught up themselves. It's interesting. I actually, there was this bully in 5th grade. You'll like this story. He's such a dick. He was such an asshole. Sorry, this in my podcast, vulgarities.
No, that's fine. No,
He was such a dick, and at the time, and he would just pick on me. I was a little kid. I mean, I didn't start growing. I stopped growing probably when I was 30. I'm 6 feet tall now, but I was a little kid for most of my primary education through high school. I say the same thing. Very interesting. I was a late bloomer, right? And so he would pick on me and pick on me and pick on me and push me and say these stupid things to me. And since I was very sensitive to the noise, just sensitive kid, it was heartbreaking. I took it all in. I took it personal, which hindsight is 20/20. And some of us grew up with bullies, and it's just part of growing up. Life's a contact sport. We're going to get our knocks just like, you did. And a lot of us do. And I remember years later, Thomas, he went to college 2 hours away. And I saw him at a bar in the town we grew up in. And he came up to me like, no, he was the nicest guy. And it was like he didn't even remember how much of an asshole he was and how much he picked on us. And me, it was my other best friend. We were both little kids, and I didn't know what to say to him I didn't understand what his problem, what his major malfunction was at the time. Even though whether I was a little kid, but I also, because my mind was so noisy too, I couldn't really see the forest from the trees. Like, he was caught up and struggling too. And I said to him, and he was very nice to me. I looked at him, I smiled at him. It was not, pleasantries, bullshit. And then I said to him, Mike, you're a real dick to me growing up. To this day, I still remember it. And he said to me, his facial expression changed. He got really serious. And he said, Sam, my parents, we're going through a divorce. My father was physically abusive, alcoholic. And I apologize. I'm sorry. And I'll never forget that moment. He was about to cry. He felt so bad. He didn't realize how much he was taking his stuff out on me. And I didn't understand. I just thought he was an asshole. Yeah. I didn't have compassion for him. At that moment, all I had was love and compassion for him and goodwill. And we still speak occasionally on Facebook. And if it wasn't for that moment, I would still think he's an asshole. I would hold that animosity in. But at the time, I didn't know how to language my displeasure for what he was doing. And I can only imagine in your shoes what that must have been like because of how your brain works. And there's nothing wrong with how your brilliant brain works. Just it's how it works, it's how it works. And dealing with bullies, like I could see how it would have hard to have compassion for people that were hurtful to you.
I know it really did. It affected me for like a long time. Actually, yeah. It was, you become very jaded when your experiences of life in friendships and relationships and general school life are just not good. You kind of in that defensive mode, and it took me such a long time to understand that me not really thinking about those things and trying to process them and perhaps even forgiving people for things that they've done that were bad for me. That took me a long time, and it was really transformative for me to think about that and to try and be at peace with it. It really did affect my view on the world and people. And
I'm sure
it was a long sort of when I was at university, I studied Biomedical Sciences.
Well, hold that thought for 1 second, because there's this. I want to take us to your college years.
Yeah,
you call
sure.
It college, or you call it uni. Uni sounds more uni. That sounds like cool. So you've become a professional. You got into professional sport, martial arts, and you excelled at it. You won you won lots of tournaments, championships. You got the trophies to prove it. So take us from there to uni, and along that way, I can imagine there've been some really wonderful people that saw your light. How did they remind you who you are? What was it that what was that moment where you finally saw, like, you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you, your brain works differently, and what at that moment was that kind of the turning point where things started to become easier for you in terms of, it wasn't easy because life's not easy, but most of life is not easy because of our thinking around life. Take us back to that moment where, like, it was the transition between really not being scared anymore, and not being hurt anymore, and not feeling misunderstood anymore, to I'm Thomas, hear me roar, and people really seeing you and you being able to kind of see your success and move forward to college and beyond, where we are in the present moment here. Past that, I'm assuming it's not much. You're a young man. It can't be that. It was probably a couple of years ago. Because that turning point, I think, is really helpful for the audience to hear. For those that are suffering and that don't think that they have what it takes because of their neurodiverse brain, because of things that they've struggled with.
There were a few sort of turning points, because when you have quite severe depression, it can often be very difficult to find any meaning in life. I remember one night when I was on my way to training practice, I was quite intensely suicidal at that point. And
what was it? Do you if you can share with us? Was there something? Would you get on board a train of thought, a thought program that was just inserted into your hard drive innocently? Like we just picked up on some pretty low mood thinking that you started to believe in. Was there something that happened, or was it just you got caught up in a whole bunch of thinking about some dark thinking from nothing that you thought was real?
It was initially a lot of self-hate, hate for myself, and
so it came from just like some old thinking. One day you woke up and you were in a low mood, and then
over and over again.
Yeah.
You think something about yourself, then something in your environment somehow proves itself that that's true, and it's kind of like that. Because when you're younger, your brain's very plastic and it's very moldable, and it's quite important to make sure that time period is as smooth as possible. Because if it doesn't go well and lots of bad things happen, it can screw up your brain's neurochemistry for years and years to come. And, there was a particular there's probably about 3 times in my life when I'd actually tried to end it. One being in my teenagehood, which no one really knew about.
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
No. It's.
Well, I just want to. Yeah,
I'm open about it.
Okay, yeah, because it's for some people it's uncomfortable.
It's not.
So there's you were in this dark period. Well, yeah, where you were just having thoughts of ending it, and then something happened where you kind of got a glimpse of Thomas's light. What happened there?
Well, it was that time that I was saying about in the car going to training. I was at a very low point, and I was sort of on my way to ending things again, or trying to. And I sort of said to myself, Tom, do you really want to just end your life? Is that your only goal? Like, you just want to end things as soon as possible? Because that's what my mentality was. I had plans that I would end it before I was 18. And I said to myself that night that, right, okay, if you can make it through until your early 20s, at some point you will have a platform to tell people about your experiences and turn all of your negative experiences into positives. And that was, as I was saying before, the first anchoring point for me, which has obviously developed.
So you had this epiphany, kind of. You had this epiphany. Yeah. So it was like one day you were like, if I could just get to my 20s, okay. But then if I could just get to my 30s and get to my 40s. It's interesting you talk about that there was some wisdom that came through. So inner wisdom, as we've talked about before, I hit the record button in our pre-interview conversation, is what you experienced. The thought turbulence, the low mood, the suicidal ideation is not you. It's not your thinking. It's not you. It's thinking, and
it's an imbalance in my brain. That's just,
well, it's not even that. I would argue. I think it's a whole bunch of thought and thinking moving through us. It's energy moving through us. That's not who we are. It's just thought, and thought is not who we are in the way like. No, I don't have an analogy for that one. I just forgot. Thought we are not our thinking, and we don't have control of our thinking 100% of the time. And what you saw in the space, but I'm just putting this into context. What you saw is that you dropped into the present moment. You got really quiet, like we all do all day long. We're in a walking meditation, all of us during the day. In that moment, you kind of say, wait, there, yeah, I think I can just, let me just take it day by day, day by day. I'll get into my early 20s. Let's see what happens, And
it was the warrior archetype.
I think it was your inner wisdom.
Yourself.
I think it was your inner, you got really quiet and then you had an insight, like we all do. You had an insight to do a podcast. Like I had an insight to do a podcast, to share it with the world. You had an insight to do Taekwondo. That didn't come from your thinking. That didn't come from, oh, this is a way for me to survive until such a point where I'm going to,
Well, it was that was the first sort of anchoring point for me, and I call them anchors because the what I said about sort of the warrior archetype, it's or the hero archetype is basically this person who puts themselves through rigorous training, this person who deals with the worst of what the world can throw at them and continues on and keeps their values high. That was very attractive to me because my experience of the world was that it's pain and I'm a horrible person and that I hate every single experience that I'm having. And at that point, there was just no meaning to it. So I was like, why don't I just end things? What's the point? And so that warrior archetype was something that I adopted quite naturally myself, that hero archetype.
I think that was always within you. I think you saw it. And again,
yes,
I'm not you.
Yeah, exactly.
You can call it a ham sandwich. You can call it fish and chips. You can call it whatever. Warrior archetype sounds really cool. I mean, that sounds,
It's just a way of like explaining kind of my mental state in at that place.
But you saw your mental state as illusory at that moment. You had a glimpse of common presence. You had a glimpse of your true nature. You can call it warrior archetype. You can call it whatever you want. But there was a moment where you kind of saw your true north, your resilience. Yes. You saw, you had an insight. And we all are gifted with that wisdom, the inner wisdom within us that's waiting to come out. It's not in our brains. It's not in our thinking. It's not in our systems running up between, the programs running between our ears. It's not in the Xbox or the PS4 or the Atari 2600. It's our default state. And we don't pay attention to it enough because it's a calm voice. It's clarity. It's that subtle nudge. We don't know where it comes from. We know it comes from our conscious self that's saying, go do Taekwondo. Go share your story on YouTube and be powerful. Be the powerful warrior that's within all of us. Right? And you saw your enlightenment. It was always there. I see it within you right now. And to me, that's pretty amazing because you're a young man to see it at the age. Some people, it takes like me, it took into my late 30s to really see what you just described. And I wish I did Taekwondo. I'd be a lot cooler. I'd have a nicer haircut and I'd be more of a badass. But it didn't work out that way. So you went to when you went to uni, were your social interactions a little bit more positive, and you kind of so it was the same kind of thing. It was the same kind of thing. That the issue was that a lot of late diagnosed autistic people talk about is not really knowing who you are, because there are a lot of traits and ways of thinking that are quite common to people who are autistic, or not exactly I am autism. It's I'm an autistic person, and so I didn't really understand what the autistic bit meant, and because I didn't understand that, I didn't know the things that I needed to work on. I didn't understand where I was struggling, with
specifically in socializing, the nonverbal stuff, I had to teach myself cognitive empathy, the ability to understand someone's mental state.
Self-soothing, that sort of thing.
Being able to
calm the motor down.
Take on board what someone's outward presentation is and trying to discern what they're feeling is the kind of the cognitive empathy that autistic people tend to struggle with.
And I can relate to that. And I love that you said that you kind of saw that, how that's people on the spectrum or people with neurodiverse brains languaging what our needs are and how to interact and share our needs and how to understand other people's needs is different. It's not like it's impaired, it's different. Because the way we see the world, the way we language in the world is so different. Would you say it's so different? Whereas how we see the world and the way we see the world, if we were in Spain and taught Spanish, we had to communicate it better. But what I hear you're saying is you needed to be taught Spanish, but
yes,
right? You needed to be, and nobody really understands how important that is unless you're a clinician or a therapist that is highly trained to really see those important pieces of the pie.
No funding, or there's no awareness that, that I think they're the best people to help younger people with the social skills and all of that kind of stuff is other autistic people. That's from my experience. Clinicians and anyone who is available to a kid of an average sort of background, not obviously if they're like rich and stuff, they'll be able to hire like an amazing therapist and whatever and probably do a lot better. But for most people, it's very hard to find that without actually learning about it and doing the work yourself.
And it's hard to ask for help when you don't know how to ask it when you're on the spectrum. It sounds like for me too, having ADHD and anxiety and OCD, that it's a nice Venn diagram cocktail. It's like you shake it. It's like that, it's a snow globe. The snow globes, you shake it and then it settles. Like it was so confusing. For me, it was hard to see what my actions look like. And I'm sure you can relate to that. And I think there's a little bit of how my brain works in yours and vice versa, that we just don't know we don't know what our actions look like. And we misperceive cues, if you know what I mean. And it's because the way our brain is developed, it's working at a different speed. It's syncopation. It's synapsing differently than a neurotypical, whatever you want to call neurotypical.
Well,
someone who thinks they're normal. Crazy, no one's normal. We all come defective from the factory, right?
I saw this amazing research study about Temple Grandin, who's quite a prominent autistic figure. And they compared the brain of a neurotypical person and Temple Grandin in like an ECG, like measuring the brain activities, and they got them to engage in socializing. And for the neurotypical brain, all the sort of speech and language centers started lighting up. But for Temple Grandin's brain, nearly the entire brain was lighting up because it just took so much. It took so much cognitive effort to try and socialize, because it's not inherently built in. So you have to kind of understand it and be conscious and like take steps and learn different skills. And
that's so important. There's a book I read. I don't know if you read. I think it's called Neurotype. It's a thick book on neurodiversity There's a whole bunch of case studies done. Neurotribes. I love that book.
I've had him on my podcast.
Oh, dude. I love that book. And it's so brilliant.
It's amazing.
For me, when I'm overstimulated, when I love using car metaphors. My check engine lights on when the car's overheating and I'm around.
Yeah.
Especially because I was in marketing and I was in big pharma working for, I'm great at sales. I can charm anybody for better or for worse. You can too. You just smile and everyone loves you. I would get so overstimulated and the noise is so loud, the periphery noise. And I would just say to people, if you don't mind, can we go somewhere that's quieter? Because the noise is really loud and it's hard for me to concentrate. And I'd ask people to repeat themselves because I literally, I can't hear them. I just miss it. I miss the cue.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really powerful and liberating for myself to be able to voice that and to tell people, say, I'm having a hard time hearing you, or do you mind repeating that? Or just saying, people, listen, I have an ADHD brain. I'm having an ADHD moment. I forgot exactly what you just said to me. Can you repeat that?
That's like the fundamentals of
admitting that you're flawed, like we all are. And that's so comfortable. Like I remember speaking in front of a bunch of people. I completely forgot what I was saying. Instead of me, go ahead. No, you go first.
I call the neurodiverse type brain differences diffabilities.
The what?
Instead of just...
See, I just missed what you just said.
The neurodiverse type brain types are like diffabilities.
Diffabilities?
Disability.
I love that.
Not disability. I've got it on a t-shirt.
Dude, I need a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt. We can exchange t-shirts.
Yes, we could.
I always tell people that I'm not attention deficit. I'm just attention different.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's true though, isn't it? It's just...
There's nothing wrong with you, my friend. Like, even if you had one eye in the middle of your head and 3 ears, there's nothing wrong with you. If you were the only person on the planet that had this type of brain, I'd say there's something wrong with you. But there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of people just like you. Well, there's only one Thomas. There are many like you, but there's only one Thomas, right? There's only one Sam. It's probably a good thing in my case. But once people see like that you still can be your flawed, badass self, you can still be perfectly imperfect. You still could be on the spectrum. You still could have ADHD and OCD and anxiety like I do, and still be a productive member of society and make a good living. Are there more hurdles to jump over? Are there more obstacles sometimes because we're misunderstood? Because we're dealing with a social system, a financial system that's still back in, no offense to the UK, it's still back in the Middle Ages sometimes. Like, this is 2021, people. Come on, get with the program.
Exactly.
You have a GPS. You have this, and we all have this inner GPS within us, but we're so caught up in the egoic mind. We're so caught up in the machinery.
Would you like me to to speak a little bit on my experiences at university?
Yes, I got totally off on a tangent there. I'm so
it's okay.
sorry.
It's fine.
And we're gonna have to end soon because you and I could speak for hours. But to share, like, you're at this point where you're going in and out of the noise. You're having some really difficult moments, some really dark moments, and seeing flickers of your wisdom. Take us to university, and then let's wrap it up. And if we can just what kind of message you want to share with the audience, and what you think. Go ahead.
I can condense it quite well, I think.
Dude, I can talk to you for hours, but the audience is, they have to take bathroom breaks too.
Well, when I went to uni, it was hard because at that point I kind of had to function myself, to organize, to socialize. And I was finding it really difficult to find someone in my first year. And I went through a breakup following that first year at university, and I spiraled down into quite a bad place. I made an attempt on my life.
I'm sorry. Which
was for some miracle, this wonderful, amazing friend called Kate. She saw that I was struggling on that day, and I'd taken a bunch of pills and alcohol, and that she actually called the security guard, and they took me to hospital, and I was okay. I wasn't very happy about it because I was like, this is what I wanted. I was not in a good state then. I was having 8-9 panic attacks a day. I was actually having my first existential crisis, which would follow me to a few times later on. So that was a big part of me. And at the end of that second year, I was like, I need to do something. So I took on a research placement in Thailand. I moved there. I did a lot of digging. I tried to understand myself a lot better. I started up the YouTube channel, mostly talking about my own experiences with mental health and autism. And I did a lot of traveling as well. I went around Southeast Asia for 2 months backpacking, which is not something that really confines with the routine liking autism diagnosis. But anyways, so I did all of that. I did great stuff. I came back, I finished my year. Instead of doing a research project for my final year, I did a documentary called Asperger's in Society, which is going into the link between autism and mental health. And I dipped my toes in the water in podcasting. And I also started to do a lot more public speaking and going on to radio shows and working with charities, and got a job, special needs teaching, to understand what the school system was like from an adult's perspective. And now I work for a charity, and I do a lot of events and such, and all of that. Like my YouTube and podcasting was once about me. These are my terrible experiences. These are my bad experiences. But over time, teaching myself things and learning and socializing and understanding life a bit better, my new meaning came through as I want to help people. And the more that I've focused on wanting to help people, this came about from what my granddad said before he passed away from lung cancer. And he told me to stay in Thailand. He told me to help people. He told me to learn. And so ever since then, I've been focusing on helping people. And as a result, I'm not so focused on my own happiness, and I'm actually a lot more relaxed and confident and feeling better in myself as due to that, finding my own set of values and meanings and going out there and pursuing them for the benefit of other people. And it's been an incredibly transformative journey. And, it's been painful and it's been hard. And, in the end, I feel like, there's possibility that I can make a difference in the lives of other autistic adults and children and people in general. It's been amazing. And, up to the present moment, I am talking to you, Sam, and I'm very much appreciative that you've invited me on to talk about my life. Really, it's very nice of you. Very, very honored. Thank you.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. You're a remarkable young man, and I think you've really seen who you are. I think you really have gotten true glimpse of who you are. And you also, through your pain, have seen what your purpose is on this planet and your gifts are. And you have many gifts that we all see that we haven't met in the physical realm, but I see it and a lot of people see it. And you've proven to yourself that you're not the sum total of your dark thinking, of your past, of that this journey that you've been on, a colorful journey, a painful journey, is yours.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey. And it's and also you've developed, I think you've seen your own, I think your own humor, your own sense of humor. You've harnessed that, and I think that's profound. There are so many people out there that are suffering, that have, whether they're on the spectrum or they're suffering from mental health issues, and they don't see their own hope, they don't see their own resilience, and would love people to see them even in their darkest moments. And I think that it takes seeing our own inner resilience in the darkest moments. And what you've gone through is incredible. I have a lot of words, but I also have no words. And so I just want to thank you for sharing this amazing journey with me, and feeling and having trust in me to put this out there, as well as the audience, because it takes a lot of courage to share this. And I just want to, it's wonderful. And so what's next? And then we're gonna wrap it up. But what's next on the horizon for this? You can do anything now.
I'm hoping to. Well, at the moment, I'm working full time at a charity that helps disabled people, older people, younger people. It's quite a big charity, and it takes up most of my time. It's a full time job, 9 to 5. But on top of that, I'm going out and I'm doing I'm going to the gym because I'm currently waiting for a knee surgery to get back into Taekwondo.
I was just about to say, you're going to go back into sport, going back into martial arts?
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Okay, good. Is there anything that? Yeah. Is it like do you know orthoscopics, or is it like
ACL injury?
Oh man, but it's a quick surgery, and then they'll fix you up. You're young. You got plenty of life left on
Bigger.
That's right. Any parting words?
So yeah, that's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, that's it. That's I'm working on my second season. I've just finished doing a introduction, filming and editing, and making a new logo and stuff. And
cool.
Taking ages.
Take your time. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
Any parting words, and will you take us out with where people can find you on YouTube and Instagram, and of course your brilliant podcasts, which I love. We need to have you on. I need to have you on again for part 2, because
I'd love to.
Your story is just beginning. I mean, you've had a big. The adventures are just the best is yet to come for you. I know it. I know it is. So. Famous last words, sir.
Yes. Well, I'd say that for anybody who is struggling with any part of life, it can be quite attractive to try and shoot for happiness and for positivity, and for all those things that just don't really line up with what your experience of the world is. Sometimes it's just important to notice that you're struggling and that you're in pain, and that the things in life that will really keep you going is finding your meaning for life, your values, and understanding those completely, and how those values that you hold dear to you interact with the world. And once you work out from that base, and you start shifting your focus from trying to get rid of the pain to trying to do something, and trying to enact those values over time and over time. And, you know, it will get better, and you'll start to have a view of where you want to take your life. And along the way, your mood will have its ups and downs, but in general, it will go on an uphill. Once you have that inner value manifested in the world.
Well said,
as cheesy as that may sound.
Cheese is good. Bring on the cheese. More cheese is better. It's like my girlfriend and I, we love 80s love songs. It's disgusting, but it's so great. And part of what makes you, so special is your sensitivity. That if, with that comes a responsibility that when we are feeling low in a low mood, and when we're really feeling our thinking, that realize it's not real. It's just thought. It's only when we create meaning around our thinking and we take it on board that we give it life. Mm-hmm. Unless we give it life and see that our essential nature is winning tournaments in Taekwondo and being that bright light and bright light for others, being that beacon of light for all those lost sailors out there, and that we're all perfect underneath our thinking. We just got to pay attention to it more. And also to be okay with our low mood and be okay with our crazy ass human self, right? And to be okay with having a brilliant neurodiverse brain. So tell us where we can find you on the internet.
Well, you can find my website, which is thomashenley.co.uk. It's very new. I've just created it. And
Thomas Henley again. Repeat that.
Yeah, thomashenley.co.uk.
Okay.
And from that, you can find my YouTube channel, Asperger's Growth, and you can also find my podcast, the 40 Auti podcast, which I'm sure you'll 40 Auti.
40 Auti.
Yeah,
got it. That's brilliant.
And such, and social medias are all Asperger's Growth. And if anybody wants to get in contact or share something or ask anything of me or invite me to something, you can always contact me on my email, aspergersgrowth@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. It's been a real honor, and you're on your
Likewise.
way. Don't be a stranger. Let's do this again very soon.
Indeed.
Cheers.
See you later.